Good evening. Okay, very good evening, all of you. Sorry. So today I'm going to talk about some validation stuff, inbuilt validation support which you got here in Spring Framework. So let's have a look at it. Yes. Generally you have some common validations, but the most common validations you'll find that here in Spring Framework we got the support for that. Yes. So when we talk about web applications, can you people tell me what are the most common validations you'll find? What will be the most common validations which you'll have? Yes. No, mandatory fields. Mandatory field. What is min length, max length, right? You have min length, max length. So these are the most common validations which you'll see. Yes. For that common validations, you got the support. For example, you see, I want to make sure that this order ID property value is mandatory. What you will do? Yes. To check whether a field is mandatory or not, you know that it's a client-side validation itself, right? But though it's a client-side validation, you know what? When the data is sent to the server, we have to ensure that it is also validated on the server side. Why we need to ensure that the property value is again validated on the server side? Yes. What do people think? Why we need to ensure that this property values we validate them again on the server side? Why we have to do that? You got the question, all of you? Generally, you see, checking whether this property value is mandatory or not, and what else? You see, min length, max length, you'll have some common validations, right? The thing is, for that common validations, we'll do it on the client side. But I'm saying that here, when this data reaches the server, on the server side also, we have to validate this data. You see, on the server side, the data is populated into the order object. You know that, all of you. The data is actually populated into the order object here. You're very much aware of it. So,
It's a primary key.
uh, not because it is a primary key, because when the data reaches the server, here on the server side, by the time it reaches the server, you see, during the transit, what if the data is corrupted? During the transit, what if the data is actually corrupted? Then what? I hope you got the point, right? What if the data is corrupted? Yes. Or else, sometimes you'll find that on the server, it may get the data from a different source, not from a web client. Just assume, though it is a client, but still, you see, during the transit, what if the data is corrupted? Then what? So we want to ensure that when the data reaches the server, it is properly validated appropriately. Yes, before we use it. So the question is, how will you validate this data? How to validate the data here? What to do? For that, we can make use of Hibernate validators. Spring supports a validators framework, which is provided by Hibernate people. What is it? It is called as Hibernate validator. Validators framework is there. Earlier, we have worked with Hibernate ORM, right? We have worked with Hibernate ORM for persistence. To handle the persistence, we did work with it. Now you know what? Here we got something called as Hibernate validators. It's also a framework which helps you purely deal with validations. So if you want to use this Hibernate validators, first of all, you need to add that dependencies. I mean, you need to make sure that you acquire that libraries as well. Okay? Make sure that you acquire that libraries. That is what you need to do. Okay, here in our project, in the form.xml file, we will add this Hibernate validators. You see, it's a separate framework. It's a separate project, though it is provided by Hibernate people. Okay, so this is a separate project itself. Yes. Now, what else we need to do here? Do we need to configure anything in this configuration file or anything? Nothing like that. Now we can straight away start using it. We can straight away start using that Hibernate framework here. You see, what I will do is I'll actually annotate this property. You see, we got this order ID, right? I want to make it mandatory. That means we should definitely get that order ID value. User is supposed to mandatorily provide that order ID. That is mandatory. So you can make it a mandatory field. How? Just do this. Just a second. First of all, please let me save this form.xml file. I didn't save it, but libraries they're not added here. Yes. Now you can use the property. Go to this order class, and in the order class now you can specify the rule. In the order class, you can specify the rule here. At the rate, it cannot be empty. The order ID, it cannot be empty here. Yes, that is what we need to do. If it is a string, we can also add min length, max length rules also. Okay, we can add min length, max length rules. If it is a string, it's not a string, right? I'll just show you. You see, now we can also add a message. So message equal to, see, order ID cannot be empty. Order ID is required, let's say. Okay, order ID is required. So this is the message which I would like to display. Order ID is required. Yes. You know, where this message will be displayed. If you want to display this message in the JSP, we can use a special tag library provided by Spring Framework. Okay, let's use a special tag library which is provided by Spring Framework here. Okay, yes. So what is that tag library? It's called as Spring tag library. Let's make use of it. Without writing much code, we can quickly add it. Okay. Where is this? Yeah. Spring form tag. You see, this is the URI. If you press Control Space, you should find it. If you have added Spring libraries, Eclipse ID will be able to identify the Spring tags. Definitely, it will be able to identify the Spring tags. I can say. Okay. Now, in the Spring tag library, we got a tag. Actually, first we need to use a prefix also. Just configure a prefix here for this tag library. Yes. What is this prefix? Here, when I say prefix, you'll find that it is actually the reference to this tag library. You can say it is a reference to this tag library. Yes. Now here you'll find that we can access this tags using this tag library. We can access the tags using this tag library. I can say this is possible to do that. You see, we got a tag called as error tags in this tag library. Errors tag is there. You see, s colon errors. That is the prefix I'll be using. Yes. And then you will have a path property. Just specify the property name as order ID. That's it. Property value should be order ID. What this order tag does here, you know what, here this order tag, sorry, errors tag, I'm sorry. What this errors tag does, you'll find that this errors tag, it will display an error message if there is any error message for this property. Okay, if at all, if there is any error message for this property, then you will find that here this errors tag is going to display that error message. The errors tag, it's going to display the error message, I think so. Yes. Here, who will send that error message to this JSP? The framework itself does that. The framework itself does that. Yeah. But you need to slightly change this port um, for this purpose here. Here, you know what? If there is a validation error, if there is a validation error, we want that input JSP to be displayed. So the controller is supposed to handle this part. The controller is supposed to handle this part here. That is what we need to do. Yes. I hope you understood this point. So how this controller's method will know, is especially this process order request method, which is invoked for post request. How this controller will know that there is a validation error. You see, if there is a validation error, especially for this property, you see, if user didn't provide that order ID, if that order ID is not provided, then what? We can check that validation error. How, you know, we need to add an additional property called as binding result here. You add an additional property called as binding result, and also annotate this order object with validated annotation. Just before that order parameter, just do this. Just before this order parameter, we need to do this here. Yes. Now, first of all, this annotation before this order parameter, it indicates that we want this order object, which is a command object, to be validated. We want that order object, which is a command object, to be validated here by the framework. Next, this binding result object is important when dealing with validations. It indicates that, it helps the controller's method, it helps the controller's method to understand that there is a validation error. It helps the controller's method to understand whether there is any validation error or not. Yes. Yep. See, now this controller's method will check whether there is any validation error. How? In the binding result object, you'll find a method called as has errors. Okay, has errors method is there. You know, this has errors method when it is invoked. What happens if there is a validation error? This method returns true. If at all if there is a validation error, this method it returns true actually. If this method binding results method if it returns true, that means we got a validation error. Yes. What are we supposed to do if there is a validation error? What do people think? Yes, this process order request method it should return which view name. It is supposed to return which view component name. Yes, if there is a validation error, which view component should be displayed here? Yeah, the order JSP should be displayed. The order JSP should be displayed, right? So this controller, in this case, it should return that order JSP name. That is what it is supposed to do. This controller is supposed to return order JSP name here, that view name. Yes, there is a view component name here, order JSP. Otherwise, you see, if this has errors method returns false, this code won't execute. This if condition, this block won't execute. The rest of the code will execute here without any issues. And the framework, you know what it does? When it calls this JSP page, order JSP, it is the responsibility of the JSP itself to pass that error message also. The JSP itself will pass that error message also. Yes, the JSP itself will pass the error message also. Yes. So once the JSP is displayed, you see, if at all if there is any error message for that order ID property, immediately this error tag will display it. Okay, let's see. So we'll deploy this application on the server. So we don't have to write the validation code much here. Yes. Okay, first of all, we got this application deployed on the server. So let's try to access that order JSP, order.jsp. Sorry, we should not directly place a request for that JSP page. It won't be displayed because it is under the webin folder. So you have to place a request for this URL, right? Process order. Yes. you got this order form. Actually, there is some problem here. You got that symbol right left and okay, here it is. You got one additional symbol. That's the problem. Okay. So I won't provide that order ID. Straight away will hit the register button. Okay. Let's see. See what's going on. No validator found. Could not be found for the type integer. Just a minute. Yes, I'm just looking for this error. Sometime. Yeah. Actually, I forgot. The thing is here, because this property type is integer type, generally only for that integer type, you won't have this support for the validation. But except integer type, all other types should be supported here. Let me show you this in just a minute. Yeah, in this time it's working. But the thing is here, if the property type is integer, if the property type is integer, instead of this not empty, you go for not null. This is one of the annotations which you'll find in the Java X dot validations itself. Java also we got some validation support. Only for this integer type, okay, if the properties are integer type, you won't find much support. Otherwise, you see, you have to go for this not null. Not null if it is integer or boolean type. If it is string type, it supports it. Uh, Everything is fine, but except one thing, it is not displaying the message here. So I'll show you. I've used not null instead of the hibernate validators because integer won't be supported here. If it is a string type, then you can use it definitely. So I want you to check this console. Here, refresh this. Yeah. See, you got that show order view. That method which is annotated with get is invoked. I won't provide product ID, order ID. I will click on register. You see, I've clicked on register. Down, if you can check this process order request method is called. But the thing is, again, you got the same page. Why you got the same page? Because that validation rule has failed. As I told the people, that validation rule has failed. Okay, so that means this validation support is working. The only thing is that error message is not displayed here. That's the thing which we need to check. The error message is not displayed here. Yes, that is what we need to look into. Yes. So let me check once here. Why it's not displaying that error message? Let me check once. No, that is the only issue which we got here. Order JSP error path is order ID. Message. The property name is also same. It has to display that error message. It's not displaying. Okay. Let's do one thing for a while. Let me just change it to string type. For a while, we'll change our property type to string type here and use that hibernate validator font because I would like to show you that also. So just change it to string type. Yeah. Okay, just change it to string type. Get product ID. Okay, I've just changed it to string type now. Let's check this one. Set auto ID. Generally, we don't need to do that, but just to show you people, hibernate validator support also. I'm just doing this. Now we'll use that not empty. Yes, use not empty. This is hibernate validator support which you got here. So let me just deploy this application on the server. Yes. Still we have to finish. Okay. You just have to check my code here. Path path there is object for data binding. It should be order property. So we got everything except that error message here. The flow is working. Yeah. So the other thing is use. Yeah. So because it's a Spring tag library, generally it works in the form which we create using Spring. Again, you know what? Here you have to take the support from Spring itself. So let me just do this. We have a Spring form. Let me use Spring form. That could be the problem. Yes, because I'm using plain form. So we have the support in the Spring tag library also, which we can make use of to create a Spring form. Let's see now. Now let's click on register. Yeah. So earlier we were not using Spring form, so that's the reason why it was not displaying that error message. Yes, that's a problem. So I will just add this color. Let me just add font color to this one. Color is red. You see, I'm creating a form using the Spring tag. I'm creating a form here using the Spring tag. You can see. I'm using the suffix s colon. Action attribute will be there, method attribute will be there. Especially we got this command name again. What is this command name? So command name is that command object name. While registering, we gave a command object name. Sorry, we gave a command object name, right? So we are in the controller, we were registering this command object. So whatever the name we gave, that is the name you'll provide it here. Yes. Order is that object name. Here I provided that. That's it. So now hope you understood this flow. So when you submit the form, what happens? First of all, the form data is populated into the order object. The form data will be populated into the order object. And you see here in the order object, we have this property order ID. On top of that order ID property, we have actually configured this annotation at the rate empty, not empty. That means we are applying that rule. So that property value should not be empty. So this is from Hibernate validators. Not empty is from Hibernate validators. Now you see it will make sure that that order property value is not empty. If it is empty, then what it does simply, you see, it will register that error, validation error with the framework. Yes, it will register that validation error with the framework. And you see here, if at all, if you got that validation error, then what happens? It is registered with the validation error. Now the controller, it will be invoked after that order object is populated with the data form data. The controller's method is called this order object binding result and model object are passed on. You see the framework will pass this binding result object. You see mainly this binding result object, it contains that validation error details. You see, if at all if there is any validation error, simply we'll try to check that by calling has errors. If there is a validation error, what we are doing, we are simply returning that input JSP name. Okay, we'll simply return this input JSP name here. Yes. Order JSP. So the framework will call this order JSP and it will pass the error message also, which will be printed by this error stack. You see, so this error stack we have configured it for this property order ID. Yes. If there is no validation error, in that case the order success JSP will be called. We'll see that flow. Okay, let me show you that flow also. First of all, here you see we will change the error validation error color message color. We have changed it. Let's check once. I'll click on register. Now you see it says order ID is required. I'll provide an order ID and now we'll submit this form. This time if it passes order request is called. Just a second. What is the form? Let's see. Still, we don't have the error message here. Just yeah. So it won't take a string value, sorry, integer, because we have specified it as string type, right? The property type I've changed it to string type. So it will be expecting a string value. So if I provide a string value, it works. Okay. Next, why I've changed it to string, because this validator framework it only supports num, uh, string types, not integer types. So for integer, you can use that validations API not null. Not null will work if it is integer type. So for example, you see for product ID, which is a number, I'll use not null, which is from Java expert validation.constraints. Okay. We'll try to display message. You see, product ID is required. Let's see this time. You see, to display that error message, we need to again add that error stack. We need to again add the terrace tag here also. This time the property name should be, sorry, this time the property name should be product ID. Product ID. Okay. Yes. Now we can add other validation rules also for this order ID, which is string type. What is it? We can add min length, max length. We got length annotation actually. Length. So you can specify min length. So min length is 4 characters, minimum of 4 characters. Max length, I want it to be 10 characters. If at all, if this validation error, if there is a validation error, then we'll this message display this message. You see, order ID should be minimum of 4 characters and maximum of 10, 10 characters. That's it. That's it. It's a very lengthy message. Okay, fine. Let's see. So let's redeploy this application. I've stopped it. Otherwise, each time we modify it, the server will try to publish the changes. That's the problem. Okay, let's use Chrome once. Yeah, process order. Now, if you have to provide characters, but I've just provided only 3 characters. At the product ID, I didn't provide the product ID also. Let's see what happens. Okay, click on submit. You see, we got the errors. So order ID should be minimum of 4 characters and maximum of 10 characters. Okay, for this product ID, we got a different error. It says fail to convert property value of string to required int for property product ID. That's the exception is okay. Use even in case of even in case of validations API also, we have a similar problem. Okay, look into it once. So now you see, have you noticed it? The thing is, from the API, you got very good support to deal with validations. So we have other validation rules also, which you can try once. There are various other validation rules also. So This validations where they are done on the server side or client side. What do you people think? Are they server side validations or client side validations? Yes, are we handling server side validations or client side validations? What do you people think? It's a server side validation. What we did here. It is actually a server side validation because as I told you people, when the data reaches the server during the transit, if there is an issue, we want to make sure that we have the right data which is not corrupted. Okay. Yes. You know what? Here we got other validation rules also, annotations which you can make use of. Right? So what you do, you have other validations also. For example, email ID. You have email ID also. You can just add it on top of this property. You know what this email annotation does? You see, on top of this order property, we have added it, right? So now you can make sure that that email ID is a valid, that it is a valid email address or not. Yes. When I say valid email address, you know what does that means, right? When I say valid email address, you know what does that means. So it should have a dot at the rate symbol. That's going to be a valid email address, right? Let me just show people just this code. So see, if you add this email address, what happens? Now it will check whether this order ID properties valid email ID is not. It's a valid email address or not. To check for that. Let's check. Let's see. Okay, I'll refresh this. Now just provide a set of characters. It's not a valid email address, right? Just submit this. What it says? It says not a well-formed email address. So you can replace it with a message. Explicitly, I didn't configure any message, so it is displaying this message that it's not a well-formed email address. It's not a well-formed email address. You know, to avoid this issue which you got here, fail to convert property value of type string to required type, you just do this. The problem is with this form tags itself, okay, instead of using this input elements, use string tags once. Use string tags. Okay. Here in string tag library, we got tags like input field. Okay. So just replace this tag with string tags here, especially in string. You just do this. Path is order ID. Similarly, for creating other text fields, also use this input element. This is requested quantity. And let's see. Now these are all string tags. You see, I'm suffixing. I'm using that suffix. Sorry, prefix s followed by colon input. So to create an input field, we'll use this input tag. Now let me just republish it once. It's requested quantity, the property name. So which is requested quantity. This is the wrong property typo. It should be requested quantity. Yeah. You see, by default you got zeros here. Have you noticed it? Okay, I will provide a invalid email address. You click on register. It's not well formed. Now we don't have that format, like number format exception and all. Okay. Yes. You see, you won't find that issue here now. So the thing is, what if we don't provide this? Like, now you'll get this exception. So by default, at least it will take zeros here. Okay? Yes. So if you provide a valid email address, then it will move on. So if this is a valid email address, it says it should not be greater than 10 characters. I've added that limit now. Length should not be greater than 10 characters. It's still more than 10. Yes, so you can remove that limit. So email address will be greater than 10, right? Yeah. So that is the problem here. So this form Actually, it doesn't contain any strings, so that's the reason why it was. I was forced to change that order ID type to string type. Yep. Okay. This is a support which you can use from the validators framework. Let's move on. We have so far we are using JSPs as the custom view components. Sorry, JSPs as the view components, right? But apart from JSPs, we can also use something called as custom view components here in Spring. Okay, so we can create a view component. It is possible to do that. How to create our own view component? Yes, it is very much possible. You can create your own view component. It is called as custom view component. Yeah. So in what cases you will create your own view component? You know, if you have to render the content which is other than HTML, so JSP is basically we use it to create a web page. But let's say we have to display something which is other than HTML content. In that case, what you'll do? What could be the examples for that? I'm saying to display something, to display the content which is other than HTML. Can you people give me some examples where the response data will be other than HTML content? Yes. Now, yeah, if it is PDF content, yeah, images, what else? If it is PDF content, or let's say you have Excel sheets, Excel data also. You know that some document you have to display, a PDF document. You see, in that case, for such requirements, what you will do, you'll go for custom view components. Okay. Now let's take this example. So I would like to display some data in a PDF format. Yeah, you need to do that. So examples, especially in bank applications, you might have noticed it. You see, when you try to read your account statements, you know, that application will provide you an option to display that transactions details in the Excel format or in the PDF format. You can do that. Yes, if you've noticed it. Okay. You can do that in the Excel format or in the in the PDF format. You can do that. Yes. You know, for that we need to create a custom view component. First of all, let's see how to create a custom view component, and then I'll show you how to render that content using a custom view component. So in order to create a custom view component, that means a user-defined view component, we need to define a normal class first of all. I'll call it a sample view, something like this. And then we need to make this class implement an interface. What is it? View interface. And we need to override methods called get content type and render methods. We got these two methods. We need to override these two methods here. Yeah. Next, configure this class as a component in a Spring Bean. In a Spring Bean, you can configure it. Let's configure ID also. Let's say sample view. In this view interface, which is part of your Spring MVC, it's from Spring MVC module itself. This view interface will help you people to create the custom view component here. Yes. In this interface, we got two methods: get content type and the render method. This get content type method, it simply returns the the details about the content type. This view component, it renders what type of content here. This view component here, it renders what type of content. The content type details will be written here by this method. Let's say as of now, let's do this. Let's say I'll just specify it as text HTML itself, or you know application MS Word. That means the content type is Word document type. The content type here is Microsoft Word document type. That is what I have specified here. Okay. Yes. Next, we got render method. So this method will be mainly responsible for sending the response back to the client. Okay, this method itself will send the response back to the client here. So this is where you write your presentation logic, I can say. So when this method is called, simply see, I'll construct the response using that response object. Have you noticed it? Here we got HTTP servlet, HTTP servlet response object. This is the same response object which we have used in the servlets. This is the same response object which we have used in the servlets, I can say. Right? Yeah. You see, when you call this method, simply it returns a print writer object, which helps us to send the response back to the client. It helps us to send the response back to the client. The print writer object. Yes. Okay. Now we'll take that print writer object and we'll just send this message, just some text content. Okay, this is the text, or this text is rendered by custom view component. Okay. So this is the response which I would like to send. Okay. Yes. Now the controller should delegate the task of rendering the response to the to this view component. How can we make a controller to delegate the task? So I'll do one thing. I'll create another controller, just a sample controller. Okay. Let's call it as a test controller. You can give any name you wish. So let's annotate it with @controller, and then here, so this method will return that view component name, which will render the response. Let's annotate this method with the URL /test, let's say, and it returns that view name. What is the view name here? What is the view name? The bean ID name is the view name, sample view. That's it. Okay. So here, when you call this controller, what this controller does, this controller will simply, it will return that view name. What is it? Sample view. Now the framework, what it does, it will take that view component name, the view name I can say, and it refers it to home. This view name is referred to home. Yes. Yes. So this view name, you'll find that it will be referred to the view resolver. We have a view resolver, right? What this view resolver does, always it resolves a view name to the JSP name. Am I right? You see, this internal resource view resolver which you got here, it always resolves a view name with JSP itself. But in our case now, in this example, the view component is not a JSP, right? The view component here, it's not a JSP. But always this view resolver, it returns the JSP itself. Here also, what it does, this view resolver will blindly prefix that view name. What is the view name? Sample view. With webinfuse, it will do this blindly. It will prefix that view name with sample views and will suffix it with .jsp, which becomes the location of the JSP. But the thing is, we don't have a JSP called a sample view. This is the problem with internal resource view resolver. It's not a problem, but that is how it is designed. So always it takes the view name and it resolves it to a JSP page. It won't check whether we have that JSP with that name or not. Blindly it will return that view name, that path, that's it. So I'll deploy this application on the server. So we'll test it. We'll come to know about it. We'll see how to address this issue also. Don't worry. Here, I'll place the request for that controller. What is test? The URL of that controller is test. Just use this URL type, press enter. Yeah. You see, this is what is expected. It says not found. Can you see the message which I've highlighted here in the middle? It says app webinf views sample view.jsp is not found. Sample view.jsp is not found here. This is what happens. So what to do then? Yes. What you'll do? You need to use a different view resolver. Okay. Especially when you're dealing with custom view components, we have to use a different view resolver which is available. So what is that view resolver? That view resolver is bean name view resolver. The name of the view resolver is bean name view resolver. That is the view resolver which you can make use of. Bean name view resolver. Yes. Okay. Yeah. You see, in the configuration file, now we'll configure an additional view resolver called as bean name view resolver. Class equal to bean name view resolver. You know this view resolver, what it does? Always it configures that view name to a bean. It will resolve a bean name to a view component. So to a bean, resolves a view name to a bean. So the custom view component is a bean, right? The custom view component is actually a bean. So it will always resolve that view name to a bean here. That is what it does. So this time the custom view component will take the name of that view name. It takes that view name, and what it does, it will take that view name, and what it does, you'll find that here it will refer it to this. Sorry, it will take that. Sorry, this bean name view resolver which you got here. The bean name view resolver will take that view name, and it refers that it will try to refer it will try to resolve that view name to a view component. So it will look for the bean whose ID matches this view name. You see, we got a bean whose ID matches that view name. See, what is the bean ID? Sample view, and it matches that view name. What is it? Sample view. So this controller returns that view name as sample view, right? Yeah. So this way you'll find that here the bean name view resolver, it will always resolve a view name to a custom view component, which is a bean again. Yes. It simply returns that bean reference, I can say. Simply, it returns that bean reference. Yes. Hence the name bean name view resolver. That means it resolves a view name to a bean, which is a custom view component. Yes. It will try to match that view name to the bean name. So wherever that view name and the bean name matches, it returns that bean reference here simply. Simply, it returns that bean reference here. That is what happens. Okay. So, but the thing is, we have two view resolvers, right? The framework, it resolves the view name to which view component first, how the framework will decide. How the framework will decide. It has to resolve that view name so that how the framework will decide which bean name view resolver it is supposed to use. You know, this is where we can use ordering. Yes, we can order this bean name view resolvers. Okay, we can actually order this bean name view resolvers. In which order you want the framework to use this view resolvers? I mean, which bean name view resolver should be referred first? Which bean name view resolver should be referred next? We can order it. Okay, we can order them. So you see, we got an order property for that purpose. You see, order name is 1. Let's say 2. Sorry, the property name is order property, and the value of this property I'll set it to 2. Yes. And similarly, you have this order property. Also set this order property value to 1. That means, you see, the bean name view resolver's order value is 1. So framework will refer to this view resolver first. And then if this bean name view resolver fails to find a bean whose ID matches that view name, then the framework will refer the view name to the internal resource view resolver. Okay. Yes. And it is highly recommended that always the bean name, sorry, internal resource view resolver is the last view resolver. Okay. Make sure that you always configure the internal resource view resolver as the last view resolver here. It should be in the last in the order. Okay. So this is how we can configure the view resolvers here. Yes. Okay. Yes. Now let's try to deploy this application on the server and we'll test it once. Okay. See, I'll use this test. You see, we just got the text content here. So this way, you can use this custom view resolver. We can create a custom view resolver by implementing this view interface. So this time, you see, the framework that view resolver, bean name view resolver, it returns this view component reference. And first, the framework will call this get content type method, which returns that content type. So here the content type is specified as application image word, right? Yes. So which means Word document, which contains text content. After calling that method get content type, it calls its render method. So the render method, you can use it to render the response. You can to write the presentation logic to render the response. I can say yes. Okay. In the same pattern, we'll be creating a view component to render PDF content, to construct the PDF document and all such things. But I'll talk about it in the next class. So we don't have much time. So what we'll do is in the next class, I'll show you how to render, how to create a PDF document using custom view component. And for this, we'll be using iText library. We got something called as iText. So iText is a third-party library which is actually used to create a custom view, sorry, which is actually used to generate the PDF document, to create a PDF document. Yes, you'll be able to generate a PDF document here with this library. So this library itself will help us to create that PDF document. Yes. Okay, so anyone got any questions in this regard? Please let me know first of all what we did here today. Okay then. So tomorrow, first of all, we'll complete this stuff, uh, rendering the content in the PDF format, and then so we'll move on to the other topics here. Okay. So I'll be talking about Spring AOP followed by Spring Boot. So tomorrow I'll start with Spring AOP also, and then we'll start with Spring Boot followed by microservices. Okay. Okay then. Let's meet tomorrow at our episode. Thank you. Bye bye.